becomes a really relevant topic if we want to maintain our value of participation, engagement, and collective, leveraging that collective insight that we have at our disposal, ideally. And so in the collaborative work environment of a self-organizing team, having a clear and rapid means of making these decisions, knowing who has authority for what decisions, is paramount to being effective. And some of the most common decision-making challenges of work environments, as we've mentioned a few, here's a couple more. One is trying to get everyone to participate in all decisions. That often fails unless you happen to be a very, very small group of people. Also, not knowing who is accountable for what decisions tends to bump decisions back to the collective process, which gets to be very ineffective and laborious and frustrating and, frankly, disempowering, actually, oddly enough. So there's that. There's also the intermittent use of collective decision-making. When you get to the end of your rope with a frustrating collective process, you're like, I'm just going to go make this decision myself, and or whatever the example might be. But that intermittent use of collective decision-making also undermines our capacity to do it well when we need it, and knowing when we need it. So getting clear about how we make decisions and who makes what decisions can provide a lot of relief. In CoLab, we recommend that you use this following way of thinking about who makes what decisions. Essentially, if it's your work, you get to decide. I'll give you an example of how this works concretely. If you happen to be holding the web page manager role, and maybe they have the accountability of editing content and layout of a website, then it's your decision what that layout is and what goes on it. Now, as a website manager, you might also have to work on a team. Let's say the communication scope. So that's a larger scope that would include the website manager role. And that comm scope might have the mission of communicating our value proposition compellingly through our sales process, which means that your team has the authority as that communication team to make decisions about what constitutes compelling communications, for which one important platform is the website. And let's look at the implications of this just a little deeper. As a website manager, you get to decide the content and layout of the website, right? But because you're holding this role inside that larger team, you're going to be selecting the content and choosing a layout that aligns with the compelling message that your larger team has selected, right? So your autonomy for what you do put on that website is limited by the team you're playing on. And any of your teammates could and should raise tensions if you start putting content that is unrelated to the work of the team or the organization you're doing work for. There's a great deal more to unpack about how these dynamics work between the individuals and the collectives. But as a shortcut, being able to really think about who makes what decisions as whether or not it's within the scope of their authority and autonomy